Thunder Bay Atikokan MPP Bill Morrow handed some new duties. Our brutal winter takes a toll on city finances. And G7 leaders wrap up their nuclear security summit.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. Well, Bill Morrow has received a long-awaited promotion. Premier Kathleen Wynne has appointed the longtime Thunder Bay Atikokan MPP as the new Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. Morrow takes over for the recently departed Linda Jeffrey, who announced earlier today that she's leaving provincial politics to run for mayor in her hometown of Brampton. Morrow's new role requires him to help Ontario municipalities manage their communities and plan for the future. He'll also deal with issues relating to the housing market, such as building safety. Speaking over the phone from Toronto today, Morrow expressed his excitement, but did admit he was a bit surprised by the timing of the cabinet shuffle.
The economy.
I think perhaps all of us may be a little bit surprised because there's the potential for an election in the near term, and so I thought it was possible that she might just park the vacancy with another minister in the near term. But an election is not a foregone conclusion, so she's thinking longer term, I suppose. And so it was a wonderful call.
It's Morrow's first cabinet appointment. He was first elected to provincial parliament in 2003 and most recently served as parliamentary assistant to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. Prior to his career at Queen's Park, Morrow served 6 years on Thunder Bay City Council.
Well, if you're among those cursing our very long winter, you're not alone. City managers and members of Thunder Bay City Council are doing the same. It's been announced that last year's city budget is millions of dollars in the hole, mainly due to winter maintenance costs. And this year isn't shaping up any better. The 2014 winter control budget is completely spent as of today. As Dennis Ward reports, that his city council staring at some tough decisions.
I think we need a more realistic
City Manager Tim Camiso is calling it a double whammy. Back-to-back brutal winters that are handing the budgets a beating. The 2013 winter control budget will end the year $3 million in the red. And the budget for 2014 is already gone just 3 months into the year and could end up being $3.5 million over budget.
We also had the flood in 2012, and when you look at this, it's really it's weather-related events that are having a dramatic impact on our budgets for 3 years in a row now. So maybe that's our new norm, and we have to really come to grips with that.
The city will put into effect immediate measures to address the overruns. All hiring is now under review, as are user fees. Next month, further actions will be brought forward. They include holding off or eliminating all new city-funded positions approved in this year's budget.
I appreciate the fact that we're going to have to find places to save money. I don't think it's appropriate or fair that in effect, we end up punishing programs who had nothing to do with the weather by restricting the resources.
The city will also look at the way it goes about removing snow, a road the mayor wants to go down. Keith Hobbs says people have to pay for the services they demand.
We got tons of complaints about snowbanks, so we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars removing snowbanks, and a lot of communities don't do that. A lot of communities don't plow residential streets in the winter time. So, you know what? People like the service levels they get in Thunder Bay, and I'll tell you right now, it'd be so easy to cut, and I could just put my feet up on the desk and answer phone calls all day long from ticked off residents.
Thunder Bay is not alone. Cities across the province and out west are also facing multi-million-dollar overruns in their snow removal budgets. But this isn't just winter maintenance. The city budget is also out of whack for legal services, golf, transit, and other departments. Those numbers will be revealed next month. Council has also agreed to take on $18.2 million in new long-term debt. $10 million will go to TBT for infrastructure upgrades. The rest is for the 4-laning of Golf Links Road this summer from Oliver Road to Riviera Drive. Dennis Ward, TBT News.
The building was lined up, the business plan in hand, but the funding did not come together for the proposed youth center at the Port Arthur Pros Vita. The city's confirmed the $10 million project, which was a partnership with the Indian Friendship Center, will not be moving ahead. As we've been reporting in recent weeks, funding from senior levels of government didn't pan out as hoped. A deal to purchase the Prosvita building and property on South High Street will be allowed to expire at the end of the month. The $57,000 the city paid to put a hold on the building will be lost in the process. City Clerk John Hannum says the head of the IFC and its board are disappointed by the news.
We will continue to move forward in a partnership with them on seeking options for a youth center. So it may not be in the form that this project presented, but we're certainly hopeful that over the coming months we'll identify other options for which we can create that space that's needed in our community.
Next month, Council will receive a report on how to move forward with developing a city youth center or centers at other locations. Subsidizing existing community centers is expected to be one of the options.
The city has formally been asked to take back the regulation and oversight of taxi cabs in Thunder Bay. Taxi service has been under review for nearly 2 years now. The Police Services Board feels the authority is a better fit for the city's bylaw department. The city agrees, but a lot of questions remain unanswered. Administration and council members both say the regulation of taxi cabs should not be a core service of the police department. There is no one dedicated officer to the job, but it does take up resources and cost roughly $62,000 a year. Transferring control of taxis back to the city will also come with costs and the need for additional resources. Those issues led to questions from some on council before the vote last night.
There is no indication in here if you are in fact going to have another staff person to manage this. It doesn't identify that. So where is that and how much is that going to cost us? I mean, this is like, take it over, city, because we don't want to do it anymore. So, and we'll figure it out as we go. I just have an issue with that.
Johnson was the only vote against taking control over taxis and limousines. The transfer from the Police Services Board won't occur until the new bylaw is written. It's expected to address wait times and the cost of taking a taxi in the new regulations.
Today marked day 5 in the Kesley Jacob manslaughter trial at Thunder Bay Superior Court of Justice. Jacob is charged in connection with the death of 53-year-old Barney Beaver at a hotel in December of 2011. The Crown and defense made their closing statements to the 12-member jury this morning. Jacob is currently free on bail while he awaits the outcome of his trial. Defense lawyer George Joseph says Jacob got into the physical altercation because he wanted to get his girlfriend out of danger. The jury previously heard she was passed out and had her pants pulled down by Beaver. Joseph asked the jury what would they do if they came across an unimaginable sight as Jacob did. He said the altercation took only a few seconds in the heat of the moment, and he pointed out that Jacob did not use a weapon. Crown Prosecutor Rob Kozak came back to say that Jacob should have just left it at one shove. Instead, he continually punched and slapped Beaver in the head and face, which did nothing to protect his friend. He added that Beaver was so intoxicated he wasn't in a condition to protect himself. The trial will now take a break until Thursday, when the judge will deliver his charge to the jury.
Creating jobs and growing the economy were topics up for discussion at a luncheon with the Provincial Minister of Economic Development today. Dr. Eric Hoskins addressed a number of city business leaders on ways they can strengthen the economy of Thunder Bay. Hoskins believes that developing and strengthening industry clusters is a way to create more well-paying jobs. He used the rise of the high-tech sector in the Kitchener-Waterloo area as an example of growing industries together as a proven way to spur regional development. Hoskins says there are particular opportunities here in the north that need to be explored. The mining sector is one of many clusters he believes is a significant economic driver in the region.
Clusters are essentially sectors of business or the economy that are in a geographic area. So here in the north we've got mining, we've got forestry, but there's a lot of other activity that takes place here, right? And we're seeing it in research and innovation and entrepreneurship and high tech, and so there's tremendous opportunity to continue to invest in those sectors.
Hoskins toured the Bombardier plant this morning and then finished his day off by visiting the Thunder Bay Regional Research Institute.
Public health advocates say many private clinics in Ontario are misleading patients and unlawfully billing them for medically unnecessary services. The Ontario Health Coalition presented its report at Queen's Park today. The coalition says a significant number of clinics they contacted were charging patients extra fees on top of what they were billing the Ontario Health Insurance Plan.
Researchers found clinics telling patients that they must pay illegal charges such as $50 mandatory administrative fees for things like a snack or patient records or an administrative fee for a medically unnecessary service. We found a very high proportion of cataract clinics in particular charge patients hundreds or even thousands of dollars for medically unnecessary tests and procedures.
Health Minister Deb Matthews says she'll look into the claims.
The conciliator has joined the latest round of talks as public health nurses at the Thunder Bay District Health Unit continue to negotiate a new contract. Ontario Nurses Association Vice President Vicky McKenna says the two sides remain far apart on wages. McKenna says the 58 nurses are the lowest paid in the province. They've been without a contract for over a year.
Lakehead University nursing students are learning about caring by taking part in an interactive mask-making project with complete strangers. The project is called An Aesthetic Expression of Caring Through Mask Making and Storytelling. It was an assignment for one of Lakehead University's core nursing classes. The goal was to teach nursing students about caring by helping them understand themselves, others, and the world they live in. While making the mask, they had to cover their partner's face with plastic wrap, which nursing student Socorro Woodman says was initially very nerve-wracking.
Cover someone's mouth and nose with plastic, but also something that you don't really get to do very often to anyone. So really cool and a really innovative way to talk about caring and being able to explore the idea of taking care of someone else.
It's the actual physical aesthetic, the art of doing it, and it puts them in a position of having to care for one another because you have to talk to one another, you have to be careful about what you're doing with the plaster and the saran wrap, and you have to think constantly about the person that you're doing this with.
The masks are displayed at Lakehead University along the second floor hallway near the administration offices. They will remain on display until next week.
Seniors with a driver's license will have to undergo a new testing process to keep their driving privileges come April. People over the age of 80 currently have to take a written test every 2 years and in some cases a driving test. Now, however, the written test is changing to try and catch more than just forgotten road signs and signals. The new test will look for early signs of Alzheimer's and other dementia, amongst other things. Peter Ketty from Progressive Driving School sees at least a dozen seniors come to take courses every month. He says the new regulations are still not the best for catching bad drivers.
It's quite a change for them to go for a road test and fail. And, the assumption that they've been good for 60 years as a driver without any collisions, and suddenly they fail a road test. And so they're up in arms about that. So there's not an easy process. I don't believe the process we have right now is good, to be honest with you. Personally, I think it should be on the road, and we should be testing on the road. That's the best way to tell if someone can drive, or not. Doesn't matter what their age is.
Ketty also says many drivers who are not yet in their senior years would fail a driving test today, and he thinks the rules around testing need to be improved for every age of driver.
Well, there are many learning aid schools employed to better educate their students, and for several classes at Hyde Park and Kingsway Public Schools, a team of four-legged canines was in the day's lesson plan. Phil Darlington has the story.
Principal Darren Lentz believes in giving his students a well-rounded education, and the grade 3 and 6 classes of Hyde Park and Kingsway Park schools have braved the cold for a lesson in mushing.
Opportunity for the kids to experience the history of dog mushing in northwestern Ontario, but more than the experience of dog mushing, they're gaining real-life experience that they can take back to their classroom and learn to use to read and write with it.
Oh, it was amazing. Like, it was pretty cool. Like, I thought it was unbelievable how dogs can pull people.
Jacqueline Humans is one of the grade 6 students who got a chance to experience dog sledding, and it's that excitement and experience that Lentz says makes for good learning motivation.
They're excited now as they're walking back. They've had that experience. Now they're going to read and write about it, and they get into it. Their details in their writing improve, and they have a lot of great information to add to their writing.
They're doing a writing assignment, like what kind of thing it felt like. You just kind of want to be a dog sledder, tell the experience, how it was, and how it feels, and stuff like that.
Jacqueline also told me that her parents were a little bit anxious about her dog sledding, but they're very happy that she got to experience it and all the learning benefits that go along with it. Phil Darlington, TBT.